Hello and welcome to Fast and Factual on Firstpost, where we get you the top 50 stories from around the world. I'm Alison LaGrange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin. In our top focus, Israel is expanding its ground operation in Lebanon. The Israeli Defense Forces sent out their 146th Division overnight. That means about 15,000 Israeli troops are now operating in Lebanese territory. Israel launched a series of strikes in southern region of Lebanon's capital, Beirut. The attacks razed 4 buildings. The Israeli forces launched the attack after warning residents to evacuate. Meanwhile, an Israeli airstrike targeted a residential building in Syria's capital, Damascus. At least 7 people were killed and 11 others sustained injuries. The strike reportedly targeted a building being used by Iran's Revolutionary Guards and Lebanon's Hezbollah. Hezbollah has warned that it will escalate its attacks on Israel, including on the port city of Haifa. This was after Hezbollah claimed responsibility for a rocket attack on Haifa yesterday. The Israeli military reported 85 projectiles being launched from Lebanon toward northern Israel. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has issued a warning to the Hezbollah leadership. He said Lebanon could face destruction like Gaza. This IDF has ramped up its ground offensive against Hezbollah along the Lebanese coast. Netanyahu also told the people of Lebanon to free their country from Hezbollah. And Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has postponed his visit to the United States. Now, this delays Gallant's meeting with his American counterpart Lloyd Austin, which was scheduled for today. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reportedly asked Gallant to postpone the trip, and reports say that Netanyahu plans to speak with U.S. President Joe Biden before Gallant goes to the U.S. And the U.S. says that Hezbollah's latest appeal for a ceasefire shows that the group is on the defensive. Hezbollah's deputy chief has extended support to Lebanon's efforts for a ceasefire. The U.S. said that although it wanted Israel to degrade Hezbollah's capability, there must be a diplomatic resolution to the conflict in Lebanon. And Mexico's new government has presented a plan to combat violence and crime. The government vowed to strengthen its police force and to boost the intelligence services. It will also focus on treating the economic and social causes of crimes. Mexico's new president, Claudia Sheinbaum, put emphasis on the new four-pronged approach. Meanwhile, the Brazilian Supreme Court has lifted its ban on Elon Musk's social media platform X. The order came after X, formerly known as Twitter, paid over $5 million in fines. The platform also blocked some accounts accused of spreading misinformation. X was banned in Brazil in August for refusing to comply with earlier court orders. And Colombia's President Gustavo Petro has been accused of overspending during his 2022 presidential campaign. Petro and some of his campaign members allegedly spent $880,000 above the official limit. Petro is currently being investigated by Colombia's election authority. He will face financial penalties if he is found to have breached campaign financing rules. And France's new Prime Minister, Michel Barnier, survived a motion of no confidence on Tuesday. The motion failed after it received support from just 197 lawmakers. 289 votes were needed to oust Barnier's government. Japan's new Prime Minister, Shigeru Ishiba, dissolved the country's parliament today. This comes ahead of snap elections on the 27th of October. Ishiba called for new elections aiming to strengthen his mandate. Ishiba replaced former Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in a bid to boost the ruling party's popularity. And North Korea held a meeting of its Supreme People's Assembly on the 7th and 8th of October. Now, the Assembly amended the constitution to change the country's minimum working and voting ages. North Korea also named a new defense minister. And the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, began a key summit today. It is taking place in the country of Laos. The summit will focus on the civil war in Myanmar and also the ongoing disputes in the South China Sea. And in climate news, in the U.S. state of Florida, residents are bracing themselves for a dangerous Category 5 storm called Hurricane Milton. It is expected to make landfall today in the city of Tampa Bay. Over 1 million people have been asked to evacuate Florida's Gulf Coast. U.S. President Joe Biden has said that Milton could be one of the worst storms in 100 years to hit the state. Meanwhile, Hurricane Milton swept through Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. It brought gale-force winds and heavy rainfall with it. Several houses and roads were submerged in knee-deep water. However, there were no reports of any fatalities, only minor damage. And the air quality in Bolivia's Santa Cruz city has dropped to extremely bad levels. This is due to devastating wildfires across the country. Winds carried smoke into the city, causing a sharp decline in the air quality. Santa Cruz residents have been advised to stay indoors and to use masks. Operations at the Viru International Airport also came to a standstill for several hours as the visibility dropped to 600 meters because of the smoke. The wildfires have burned over 10 million hectares of land so far this year. And the Moroccan Sahara is witnessing a rare flooding event. After heavy rainfall in August and September, water was seen rushing between the sand dunes. Now, experts say that it has been at least 30 years since this much rain has fallen in such a short span of time. The water was seen in the lake Iriki, which has been dry for the last 50 years. And according to reports, at least 339 people have died in Niger due to floods. Over 1 million people have been displaced since the torrential rain started in June. At least 383 people have sustained injuries due to the extreme weather situation. According to the National Meteorological Agency, some areas recorded up to 200% rainfall. A new report claims carbon dioxide emissions from the energy sector might reach its peak this year and then slowly start declining. The report is prepared by the Norway-based consultancy DNV. It notes that the world is increasingly heading toward a transition to renewable energy sources, and this transition will help phase out the use of coal and oil. And on to business and tech news. The Reserve Bank of India has decided to keep its interest rate unchanged today. The RBI's Monetary Policy Committee has kept the rate at 6.5% for the 10th consecutive time. The central bank's governor, Shaktikanta Das, said that the inflation has stabilized. However, he noted that they will have to be cautious about any future upsurge. And oil prices rose slightly after falling over 4% yesterday. The global oil price benchmark, the Brent crude, was trading near $77.5 per barrel. Analysts say that oil prices had plunged due to several factors. The dip in oil prices came after reports emerged that Hezbollah wants a ceasefire with Israel. Investors were also concerned that energy demand in China may remain below expectations. Meanwhile, the Chinese stock market snapped its gaining streak today. Mainland China's Shanghai Composite Index fell over 5%. Investors were disappointed that Chinese officials did not announce new stimulus yesterday. China's National Development and Reform Commission said that the country is on track to hit its growth target despite pressures. Investors were hoping the commission might unveil new measures to help to revive consumer demand. And Samsung workers in the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu have rejected a new proposal from the company. The group of 1,000 workers has been on strike for over a month. Reports say the South Korean giant had offered a monthly allowance of $60 among other benefits to the workers. However, the workers' union rejected the deal claiming that the company does not recognize the union. Meanwhile, 7 workers were arrested following an altercation with local police today. And the latest round of talks between Boeing and its striking workers has collapsed. The plane maker said that the workers' union is not seriously considering their new proposal. Boeing added that they haven't scheduled any further negotiations. About 33,000 of Boeing's US factory workers have been on strike since last month. They are demanding a 40% pay rise over the next 4 years. And share prices of Japanese retail firm 7&I Holdings rose by as much as 10% today. This is after reports said the 7-Eleven store owner has received a new takeover bid from Alimentation Couche-Tard. The Canadian grocery chain has raised its offer by 20% compared to its previous bid. Now, Couche-Tard first approached 7&I Holdings for a takeover last month, and the offer was rejected by the Japanese convenience store. Now, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration is reportedly set to approve the launch of a Starship 5 mission of SpaceX. The 5th test flight of SpaceX's 2-stage rocket launcher was delayed due to a regulatory approval. The company says it has been ready to launch since August. SpaceX CEO Elon Musk has criticized the FAA for the delay. Earlier, the aviation regulator suggested that SpaceX had failed to meet all licensing requirements. And the U.S. Justice Department has proposed selling parts of Google's businesses to end its monopoly. The proposal was forwarded to a court. Earlier this year, the court found that Google maintains an illegal monopoly online search. Now, to address this, the tech giant might have to sell businesses like Chrome browser and Android operating system. Over a dozen U.S. states have filed lawsuits against Chinese social media app TikTok. The lawsuits have been filed separately in New York, California, the District of Columbia, and 11 other states. The Chinese platform has been accused of harming the mental health of children and teenagers. The lawsuits allege TikTok's addictive nature is affecting millions of American children. And Russia has reportedly banned the American social media platform Discord. Russian state media says that the country's communications regulator blocked the app. Last week, Discord was ordered to delete about 1,000 pieces of content from its platform. The San Francisco-based company has previously been fined for failing to remove banned content in Russia. And moving on to sports, and we start with cricket. Australia beat New Zealand by 60 runs in a women's T20 World Cup group match. Australia went in to bat first after winning the toss. They put up 148 runs in the first innings. Beth Mooney top scored for Australia by contributing 40 runs. In reply, New Zealand were all out at just 88. And Pakistan finished at 556 runs on day 2 of the first test against England in Multan. Centuries by Agha Salman and Shah Massood helped Pakistan post the formidable score. In reply, England managed 96 for 1 before the end of day's play. England's top performers were Zach Crawley and Joe Root. And New Zealand batter Kane Williamson has suffered a groin injury. As a result, he will miss the India-New Zealand Test Series opener. Williamson got injured while playing in a bilateral against Sri Lanka. India hosts the Black Caps for a 3-match Test Series starting on the 16th of October. And Italian footballer Marco Cothro has been banned for 10 matches by FIFA. Now, this is for racially abusing South Korea's Hu Wang Hee-chen. The incident occurred during a friendly between Coma and Wolverhampton Wanderers. Coma Cothros will serve half of the ban, and the other half will be completed over 2 years in addition to community service. And Spain's legendary Andres Iniesta announced his retirement from football. He calls time on his career at the age of 40. Iniesta has made 131 appearances for Spain. His greatest moment came when he scored the only goal for Spain in the 2010 World Cup final. His trophy cabinet also includes 2 European Championships and 4 UEFA Champions League titles. And Chelsea midfielder Cole Palmer has been crowned England's Player of the Year for 2023-24. Now, he pipped Jude Bellingham and Bukayo Saka in the race to come out on top. Palmer became a sensation after joining Chelsea last year. He has netted 25 goals in 45 appearances across all competitions for Chelsea so far. In tennis, men's world number 1 Jannik Sinner has reached the Shanghai Masters quarterfinals. The Italian defeated Ben Shelton of America 6-4, 7-6 in straight sets. Sinner's quarterfinal opponent is Daniil Medvedev of Russia. Meanwhile, men's world number 3 Alexander Zverev entered the round of 16 at the Shanghai Masters. The German tennis player fought an intense battle against Dutchman Talon Griekspoor. Zverev eventually prevailed 7-6, 2-6, 7-6. His next opponent is Belgium's David Goffin. And Francis Tiafoe of America cursed at the chair umpire after losing to Roman Serfulian at the Shanghai Masters. Tiafoe lost the match 5-7, 7-5, 7-6, and he unleashed about 10 expletives during a minute-long outburst. Tiafoe later apologized on social media, calling his behavior not acceptable. And Indian badminton player PV Sindhu has crashed out of the Arctic Open 2024. She lost to Canada's Michelle Lee in the women's singles first round. Sindhu lost 16-21, 10-21 to Lee in 37 minutes. This was her first match after her Paris Olympics heartbreak. And in entertainment news, after the box office shattering success of Oppenheimer, director Christopher Nolan is back with a new film. As per reports, he will write and produce a film for Universal Studios again. Actor Matt Damon is in talks to play the lead. The film is scheduled to release in 2026. And Oscar-winning actor Will Smith has been invited to be the guest of honor for the Saudi Film Confex. Now, he will hold a session on the opening day, presenting his career experience to the Saudi film industry. The event begins today in Saudi Arabia's capital of Riyadh. Smith's film Bad Boys, Ride or Die became Saudi Arabia's highest-grossing film of all time. And Kate Winslet is excited as her role as producer for the upcoming biopic on American photographer Lee Miller. She said in an interview that more than playing interesting parts, it is important to tell stories and make films. For her, producing Lee was about the experience. Lee Miller is a model-turned-war photographer who died in 1977. And the makers of The Diplomat Season 2 released its trailer. The video shows the lead characters uncovering a conspiracy inside the British government. The Season 2 will pick up from Season 1's end, where a bomb detonates in central London. The political thriller series will stream from the 31st of October on Netflix. And Netflix has greenlighted the Season 3 of The Night Agent. This comes just a few months before the show's Season 2 premiere. The production for Season 3 will begin in Istanbul this year. The show revolves around a low-level FBI agent who saves the life of the US president, lands a coveted job at the White House. And American actor Lewis Pullman says auditioning for Thunderbolts was like getting recruited for the FBI. He calls it a hell of an experience as everything was very locked and sealed. The set had shredders everywhere so that everything remained a secret. He even revealed that the director himself told him the film's story, but he was not allowed to read anything. And Universal Studios is turning the video game Shinobi into a film. It will be directed by Sam Hargrave. The arcade game, which debuted in 1987, follows a modern-day ninja who fights off evils. According to its makers, over 5 million copies of the game and its spin-offs have been sold globally. And singer Billie Eilish has decided to never talk about her sexuality or dating life. The 22-year-old singer said that her statements were blown into the biggest news of the whole world after she opened up about being attracted to women last year in an interview. An American band, Limp Bizkit, has sued Universal Music for unpaid royalties. They allege that the group withheld at least $200 million. The band's leader, Fred Durst, says that the company never intended to pay them, as they have a software which conceals the royalties of the artists. The band feels that they are not the only ones. Yesterday, hours before the venue gates were scheduled to open, he took to social media and stated that due to an injury, he would not be able to perform. He added that the concert will be rescheduled as soon as possible,